Hello and welcome to the second part of the Webpack series. My name's David Thorne and let's continue. In this part we're going to be talking briefly about the configuration file that Webpack allows you to add. Webpack doesn't actually need a configuration file for the most basic things, but if you do have more advanced tasks that need to be completed, then it's advisable to use a Webpack configuration.js file. So let's go over to the Webpack documentation and read. So we're still on the same initial page, but we'll just come down to the end where we then have using a configuration. Okay, as of version 4, Webpack doesn't require any configuration, but most projects will need a more complex setup, which is why Webpack supports a configuration file. This is much more efficient than having to manually type in lots of commands in the terminal, so let's create one. Okay, so it's telling us here that we need to create a webpack.config.js file, and so what we can do is just simply say touch that, and now we have one. And inside of the webpack.config.js, then we're going to copy this and have a look at what it does. So let's go over to Visual Studio Code and paste it into our file that we've just created. And okay, so what's happening here? We're requiring the path from Node, and then we're exporting, we're using the modules, and we're exporting an object of information in order to tell Webpack what's going on. Our entry is then the source, the index.js in the source directory, and the output we're telling it that it should be creating the main.js. And the path is to say where, in which folder it should be outputted. So let's just run this again in the terminal just to show you that it's all doing the same thing, and then we can then just say it was npx webpack, and it still does the same thing. So if we come back to Visual Studio Code and change this then to bundle, just to show you that it's going to do something different. All right, and come now back to the terminal and run this once again. You'll see previously it created a main.js, now it's creating a bundle.js. And if we look inside of our inside of the folder, you'll notice now that there in the dist folder is now a bundle.js present. So as you can see that Webpack is actually by default reading this config file. Let's keep it as bundle.js because we want it to be a bundle, so now we've called it a bundle, which makes a little bit more sense. So let's come back to the documentation and continue reading. Now let's run the build again, but instead of using our new configuration file. Okay, as you can see here, they've using a config flag as well to run it, but as we've just shown, you don't actually need to have this flag declaring the config file. It will do it immediately. We're going to skip over this warning still, and as we can see here, if a webpack.config.js is present, the webpack command picks it up by default. We use the --config option here only to show that you can pass a config of any name. This will be useful for more complex configurations that need to be split into multiple files. As a configuration file allows for more flexibility than simple CLI usage. We can specify loaders, rules, plugins, resolve options, and many other enhancements this way. See the configuration document to learn more. And I believe this is the, this was it anyway. Okay, so let's come back to Webpack in itself. The configuration file goes off in lots and lots of different directions. So all I want to say in this video is essentially introduce you to the fact that there is a configuration file and where the documentation is for it. in the upcoming videos, I'm then going to use different types of loaders and so on to describe how you can use the configuration file with other parts of Webpack. To go over it now, it would be misleading and confusing, because I just want to show you where the documentation is and how it's used in the most basic form. So I'll see you in the next video, and we'll discuss about how to use CSS with Webpack. See you later.